I just had an incident. I sat my copy down on this thing, missed it, and it toppled over everywhere. Yeah, I had a mess to clean up before starting this. That's okay. So today I want to talk about the history of fibromyalgia and how it's evolved over the years. So let's chat about it. Fibromyalgia has been around a long time. It's had several names. In 1592, rheumatism was a term for muscular pain. My grandmother, who was born in 1888, had rheumatism. That's what she called it. She would rock in a chair like this because she was in pain. She told me when I was a little girl that her back hurt. In the 18th century, muscular rheumatism was the term for a painful but non-deforming soft tissue musculoskeletal disorder, which is still true today. In 1824, physicians described tender points with light palpation, which is a method of feeling with the fingers or hands during a physical examination. Have you had a doctor touch you in a spot that caused you to scream in agony? I did when fibro was just beginning to take over my body. I had hip pain and went to my doctor for answers. He had me stand up and turn around so my bottom was facing him. And I thought he was just going to look and see if my hips were out of alignment. But instead, he lightly touched my hips on both sides, just like that, very lightly. And I suddenly let out a big scream. I started to cry, mostly from embarrassment. And my doctor felt pretty bad. First of all, I have a very high pain tolerance. Well, I used to, except at the dentist. I mean, I always have had a high pain tolerance. I don't think either one of us thought it would hurt me like that. But that was just the beginning of my journey. Do you have a similar story? Send me an email or share below in the comments section. Well, back to history. In the early 1900s, the terms fibrositis, myofasciitis, which today is described as inflammation of a muscle in its fascia, and rheumatic myalgia were named. But it wasn't until 1976 that the term fibromyalgia was used. The researchers Yunus et al., I put a link below, really got the term fibromyalgia going in 1981. So it fits. Sometimes I wonder, though, if we need a new term. Is it time? I don't know. Formal classifications began in 1990 by the American College of Rheumatology to describe fibro as pain all over with 11 of 18 tender spots on the body. And in 2010, the ACR removed tender points criteria and added a severity scale of pain, fatigue, and specific common symptoms for a diagnosis of fibro. Then in 2016, due to the misdiagnosing of fibro, additional measures were created. First, a severity scale of widespread pain was added. Then pain needed to be in 4 of 5 regions in the body. I've talked about this in another video, but in addition, the criteria included symptoms that must have existed for at least 3 months. The diagnosis for fibro doesn't matter if other diagnosed illnesses are present. In 2015, the International Classification of Diseases, or the ICD-10, lists fibromyalgia as a diagnosable disease so that doctors could use an actual code when diagnosing fibro, rather than a general code. This was listed under diseases of the, is listed under the diseases of the musculoskeletal system and connective tissue. Now, this was a milestone for researchers and physicians. It states the classification for fibromyalgia syndrome as a functional somatic syndrome rather than a mental disorder. I have a problem with the term somatic because even though it means pertaining to the body and not the mind, many doctors think of it as someone who constantly thinks about pain rather than someone who is in pain. Does that make sense? I dislike the term somatic. The term's insulting and completely contrary to our right to be heard as a disease with real symptoms. In 2019, it was stated, a classification system in the ICD-11 in collaboration with the WHO, the World Health Network, will add fibro as a classification as primary pain to distinguish it from secondary underlying conditions. And this will be adopted this year in 2022. What does that mean? It's a step towards recognizing that chronic pain has a place as a world health problem. And why is this important? It is an intentional move away from labeling fibro as a mental health condition. You know, it's all in our heads, such as the term somatic symptom disorder. I quote, chronic primary pain is a novel concept originating in the insight that diseases or long-term conditions associated with chronic pain should be acknowledged in their own right, even if a clear understanding of the underlying etiology or pathophysiology is missing. It marks a deliberate move away from the practice of labeling unexplained pain a somatic symptom disorder, unquote. That is from Practical Pain Management, and I put a link below. See, I'm not the only one who dislikes the term somatic. When an individual receives a diagnosis of somatic symptom disorder, it implies that the pain is caused by a behavioral problem, right? However, it's not appropriate to diagnose individuals with a mental disorder because it originates from an unknown cause. Under the category of chronic primary pain is the following. I've read articles that use the term complex regional pain syndrome. This is usually caused by a physical trauma and may only affect a certain part of the body, like a leg or an arm. For example, if someone gets into a car accident and breaks their leg, and over time, that results in chronic regional pain. Unfortunately, chronic regional pain, or CRP, can result in chronic widespread pain, or fibromyalgia. I have a little problem with this term too when researchers compare CRP to fibromyalgia. They're insinuating that CRP is from an injury, but fibro is from a psychological perspective. Fibro doesn't always develop from psychological issues. I mean, sure it can, like when individuals have PTSD from a traumatic event in their life. For example, those who serve in a military battle. But many fibro friends can't indicate a specific trauma in their life that resulted in fibro. Sure, some people have experienced trauma in their life, like 70% of people in the US. In fibro, about 50 to 75% reported trauma. And 6% of the population will have PTSD at some point in their lives. But just because you've experienced trauma doesn't mean you'll develop fibro. I mean, there's normally a perfect storm of things that cause it to develop. For clinicians, they consider that perfect storm to be fragmented sleep, inflammation, and chronic pain, which creates an inability to process pain normally. The perfect three, you might say. You can find this in people with rheumatoid arthritis often, or any other disease. In other words, quote, it travels in herds, unquote. There's usually a perfect storm in central sensitivity disorders too. It's rare to find someone with fibro, which is considered a central sensitivity disorder, who doesn't also have two other central sensitivities. So central sensitivity disorders are like in fibro, these are included in our overlapping condition inventory. But for many of us, it doesn't usually stop there. We might also have diagnosable disorders or diseases like so guys, hang in there. They're getting closer to understanding this stuff, but we're in this together. I send you gentle hugs and support. Have a blessed day. Love you. I am the klutziest person. Musculoskeletal, say that again. It marks a deliberate chronic primary musculos. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that word. A degenerative is a Let me start over. It was the ICD-11. If you like this video, please comment below and like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.